Alright, hello everyone, Skeptic here, and we're here with a special guest yet again, Sound Nines.
Hello.
And I kind of want to talk about free melee now. If none of you are on Twitter, somehow, even though, you know, it's kind of the social media era, but if you're not up to date, there is a huge melee tournament that was supposed to come up very soon called the Big House.
hmm
It is pretty much like one of the most godlike tournaments for melee. It's an old favorite, and recently it got a cease and desist from, you guessed it, no big surprise, Nintendo themselves.
Yeah,
And
it's
the reason
Nintendo.
why? The usage of Slippy. Now, we didn't really get uh, an official statement from Nintendo's Twitter, because it's probably ran by, like Moist Critical said, some guy in the basement. Who knows what the social media dude's doing there? But in a time that we need we need people to kind of just come together and trying to just, you know, to take in a hobby that can allow you to really, you know, escape from the reality, you know, that because we can't, you know, just live our normal lives like we used to a year ago, you know, just being able to just simply go outside and hang out with friends and actually go to local tournaments. So having online tournaments is so crucial to keep everybody safe while being while still retaining your passion. And Nintendo just having this cease and desist, even though Slippy is not a mod and it doesn't use illegal copies of Slippy, or not Slippy, illegal copies of Melee. You don't even. It's just Nintendo is just so out of touch with their community. It's insanity to me that a company I that I loved for so long, and that, like, I love the games that they made. Nintendo was always my favorite, but every time it has to deal with Smash, it's like they just turn a blind eye. They rarely care. And whenever they do sponsor some stuff, it's very minimal. So just seeing that the cease and desist from Nintendo, it's like, do you want us to go to locals? Do you want us to what is the Nintendo, what is the message you are trying to spread here when we're trying to come together as a community to enjoy a game that we love?
Yeah, man. I mean, you gotta think about it from Nintendo's side, right? Nintendo.
They're not even earning profit from this game anymore. That's the, like, what do they gain from doing this
Nintendo
besides
game.
tearing down a community?
I think so. Like, you gotta think about Nintendo's side, right? When they see Slippy in the big house, right? Like, they see, well, mainly Slippy, because the main issue here is not, well, the main issue they say, right, is Slippy, right? They don't want the use of Slippy, a kind of third party kind of usage or modification to Melee, right? The problem is, I think, with Slippy that Nintendo sees, or like the guy at Nintendo like made the argument for, right, is that Slippy kind of, how the nature of Slippy, right? Slippy itself has no modified like Nintendo code, right? It itself, like the source code, is separate from Smash. Like, it has no intellectual properties from Melee or anything. It only is code that modifies Melee itself without using, Melee copyrighted code. And that's good. That's how things should be, to avoid, uh, using intellectual rights, property, stuff like that. You should not be using that. Just how emulators work. Like, emulators work by, not by using like code from the console or anything, right? Like, not from the developer itself. But that is, you know, usage of intellectual rights and whatnot, and copyright of the company. but they work by reverse engineering source code, own source code and code made by other people freely, and this other protected by other, uh, licenses and whatnot. And so these emulators and these modifications of the game, like Slippy, have nothing to do with Nintendo's intellectual property at all. They only like modifications that happen to, play these games or interpret this data that is used by Nintendo, right? But it does not contain itself any data from Nintendo, nor infringing any copyright. And so when we talking about like with Slippy, Slippy itself is a modification to Melee without using any Melee code. At least that's what I think. I don't know if it does or not for sure, but I'm pretty sure it does not. Else Slippy itself would have been taken down way longer ago. Um, so when I see like Nintendo say, okay, well you can't use this, I'm like, okay, the thing it can't be like with Slippy itself, like physically, you know, it can't be Slippy itself. So it has to be something more, um, what comes out of it, or like the nature of Slippy. Because with the nature of Slippy, right, you have to have a legal backup copy of uh, Smash Bros. Melee, right? And you also have to have what do you say? You also have to have the emulator Dolphin, right? Those are two things you must do to have Slippy, right? And those two things are kind of uh, in a legal gray zone for Nintendo, especially with their Japanese copyright law not being very, very, how do you say, well defined yet as America, right? So when something's not allowed in Japan, you just can't do it. I don't know if this is a Nintendo of America thing or it's just like a Nintendo in general, or Japan. I don't know what laws it goes through. Probably America since the cease and desist. But um, I think the nature is they're seeing that it's like not only do you have to have a copy or backup of their game, but the nature of a emulator is two things they don't like. Like trying to think real quick. I think the nature that it's an emulator, number one, and number two that um, you have to have like a copy of the game, like on your computer, are two things that Nintendo just does not like. See, if those two things were like not in there, right? Like maybe there was like you had to have like a GameCube, right? And you had to use like your physical disc on that GameCube on physical GameCube hardware to do Slippy, and Slippy somehow was like some hardware thing you just add on to the GameCube, right? Then I'm pretty sure Nintendo was like, oh yeah, that's fine, right? But the thing is, since it's an emulator, and since it's also you have to have a backup copy of Melee, they say, okay, well maybe people will have illegal copies downloaded, and they'll play in this tournament or something like that, and say, okay, well we can't have that happening, so we'll send a cease and desist because of the nature, this very gray level nature of this kind of event, and say, okay, we're gonna protect our intellectual property um, by just not even having this tournament happen because we don't want to mess with that, right? But the whole thing is, right, that is Nintendo's idea itself. It does not have to. They don't have to do that, right? Just like Sega, right, just like looks away from all the Sonic fan fiction and fan games out there because they're amazing. And hell, Sonic, the guys who make like Sonic fan game made Sonic Mania, right? They embraced it, and so Nintendo doesn't have to do it, right? They don't have to do it that way. They don't have to say, okay, okay. They can just look the other way and say, all right, let them have their fun, right? We think this is a good thing. This is for the good for the community. They're obviously celebrating something Nintendo, right? Then let them play the game, right? Because that's what Nintendo should be about. Because or any game companies, let them play the game, have them fun. Because should not be about protecting rights or protecting intellectual property. It should be more of making games and having fun with those games, even if 50 years later, right?
Yeah, that's their whole thing. It's just making games fun.
I remember when Reggie said, you know, if it's not fun, you know, why play it? And then Reggie always says it's all about the game. And Iwata and stuff like that, and Miyamoto, the people at like the head places, right? Like the forefront of Nintendo, you know, they're saying like it's always about the games, right? But Nintendo's back end, like this legal system, it's online, it's developers and it's lawyers and whatnot. They clearly do not have that same message, you know. They just don't, right? Because not only is online functionality lackluster, not only is community support lackluster, also like it's just like what is going on? Why is this not? If it's all about the games, right? Then why aren't you supporting the games? Like if it's about the games, like for example, like Super Smash Brothers, right? If it's about the games, then why isn't Super Smash Brothers have better netcode so you can make the game better, right? If it's about the games, then why, you know, do you take down every fan like title, right? That is about like your IP, right? Like every Pokemon fan game, every Pokemon ROM hack that flies too close to the sun, you just take it down, right? Like why when someone falls so close to your IP, right? Who tries to cherish your IP by making something fan, right? They're not even saying it's by them. It's not they're saying that they claim this IP, right? Like this is we made Mother or we made Pokemon or whatever. They're not even saying that, right? They're making a fan, a rendition, a parody of that, you know, title to celebrate that title. And if you say it's about the games, then you know it should be allowed because we're celebrating the games. And so that's the difference between Nintendo. Nintendo has gone so big enough and so old that there's two distinct areas of Nintendo, and it's been there for a long time. Is that Nintendo's front end and Nintendo's back end. Nintendo's front end will always say it's all about the game and stuff like that, and communicate to people, right? But then when you go and say, you know, make a fan game or try to do anything like to preserve Nintendo's like IP, like by backing up the copy of the game, even though you have a legal copy, or like, you know, like trying to celebrate the game by making homage to it in another game or something like that, right? Or making a fan game, or whatever, right? And then they just, when you try to do anything like that, they just kind of reject that kind of game, like that celebration. It's like we cannot have this kind of celebration. We cannot use our IP this way. And so, you know, whatever doesn't fit in Nintendo's viewpoint, right, is not officially by Nintendo. You cannot celebrate, right? You cannot celebrate, but only we can celebrate, right? Why can't the fans celebrate the game? Why must we always be the people who just consume it? Why can't we also, you know, celebrate by making it? You know, games and ideas aren't, you know, something that should be something so like fragile like that. Like it should not have to come from one place only to celebrate something, right? That's what I think's what idea is, that it's supposed to be spread around. It's supposed to be, you know, said somewhere differently. It's supposed to be expressed somewhere differently by someone else. Also, they're supposed to transfer because, you know, that's the nature of them. And so when Nintendo says, you know, it's all about the games, or just they have a focus on the games, on nature of games, on celebrating games, I don't understand why they limit these celebrations of gaming to just them, right? Why can't the fans also? Like think of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, right? Everyone in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, they're all IPs from somewhere else, right? So basically, Nintendo itself is making fan games of like other IPs. So if Nintendo can go ahead and grab 10,000 IPs for their one fighting game, right? Then why can't we use one of their IPs for something like we want to do as fan, right? Like I understand, oh, it's legal system, right? Because oh, you got their copyright, but no one's claiming that it's theirs. They're still just celebrating the game while not claiming it's theirs. And some of these people don't even get monetary value from it, right? That if that was an issue, like nobody's been doing that. When's the last time somebody was, you know, gaining money for working on like a fan-made ROM hack for Pokemon, right? Like if it's donations, okay, cool, right? But no one's paying for it, right? If no one's paying for it, like a fan translation of Mother 3, right? Like then it's perfectly should be fine because nobody's monetizing it and no one's claiming that it's theirs. And then you could say the same like argument for like Disney or something like that, right? Because Disney is you just can't. They protect everything, right? One thing or like Ghibli films. If you say anything about Ghibli films, you just get destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. And then, you know, there's just too many companies that are too overly protective of their IPs. It's like, why is there not fan works? Why won't you let us celebrate something, you know, by expanding on that universe, like, unofficially? So that makes no sense to me. So, I think what Nintendo needs to do, right? There has to be like some kind of new people that comes in Nintendo. Nintendo is way too old. They need new people. They need new policies. They need a new direction. With it's not like they lost it when, you know, Iwata, you know, passed away, or it's not like they lost it when Reggie, you know, retired. It's more of the problem wasn't escalated during that time. It was there, but it was not escalated during time. It was like kind of put aside and say, okay, you know, put aside and to a corner somewhere, right? And we said, oh, because they're old this way, that is why, you know, they're like this. So we put it to a corner. We push it. Okay, okay.
Yeah, we kind of kept quiet about it. We didn't really do too much unless besides the incident of 2013 where with the Evo situation.
Yeah, and so we kept quiet on it. And now that Nintendo, like, we have those greats pass away, those people who kept the front end, like, because the reason we kept quiet is because the front end always told us something different than the back end, right? The front end tells us like, okay, we care about games. Okay, we tell, you know, the face of Nintendo always tells us that they care about games. But soon, now that the face of Nintendo is gone, you know, Reggie, Iwata, you know, those two people, you know, who are mainly the main faces of Nintendo back then, is it not, right? Because you have Miyamoto and like, you know, and then the guy who does Zelda and whatnot, and like all the other games, right? You have these developers who are also the faces, but they're not like the main like PR face, right? It's always Iwata at the direct. It's always Reggie at the direct. Also, you know, they tell us, you know, at E3, they tell us at the places, at the important places where the PR matters most. Like these are the things. These are the things that should be here. These are the things like we matter to us as Nintendo. But that's just at face value. Nintendo lies at face value because no, I don't think they lie. It's just they're two separate things.
Yeah, they're like sending mixed signals.
And so when you lose the face of Nintendo, Iwata and Reggie, you lose that kind of reassurance that is Nintendo still even about the game? Because now with the face that kept like the back end in the back end, right? Now that the face of Nintendo is gone, now we only have is to see like what Nintendo really is. Because now that we only see what Nintendo really is when we are really concerned. Because that's the only thing we know. There's no illusion. There's no cloak anymore. It's right in our faces. Like, yes, this is Nintendo. This is Nintendo. Because Doug Bowser is not doing anything. He came in like for like 2 seconds and he never comes back again. Like, when's the last time you saw Doug Bowser? like,
I sometimes I forget he even exists.
like, when's the last time you saw Doug Bowser, man? Like, there is nothing. He just doesn't exist anymore. Like after like that one direct he showed up, the only thing you see him is like that one time he tweets or something like that, right? That's about it. Like he is just gone. There's no face of Nintendo no more for America. There's no face of Nintendo for Japan either anymore because Iwata's gone. So then who's the face of Nintendo now? Is it the president? The president barely shows up. Like the dude with the bull haircut or someone else, he barely shows up, right?
I don't even know his name either.
Like, does the Cherry Boy show up? No, he doesn't show up. Like, who's there, right? Is it the people who talk in Nintendo Direct in English or in Japanese or in Espanol? No, they're just the guys who say like Nintendo Direct, right? They're not the guy, you know. Is it the people on Nintendo's YouTube page, the white dude and the Asian girl or something like that? I don't think so because, again, they don't really not everywhere, right? They would be a Nintendo Direct and barely a Nintendo Direct. So there is no face of Nintendo no more. There is no face of Nintendo in America or Japan. So we're left with just Nintendo's actions as a company. Because there's no one to represent them no more. There's no person to hide their mistakes or show, that they're human no more. Because now we have to look at it as a company. We have to look at Nintendo as a company like we look at EA because there's no really, we have to look at them as a company. There
Like,
is no.
the games are great, but it feels like over the years they've become slowly anti-consumer. Like, why isn't the Joy-Con still fixed? Why do we have to send why don't they take their time to really make ensure that, when you get this product, it's a complete product?
And like nowadays it's just, I think not only is it my favorite
Oh
stage,
god, this fucking
um,
stage.
and so like Nintendo has always been kind of anti-consumer, but not to this level, right? Because before Nintendo was always progressing towards an anti-consumer like station, okay? Like for like actually I'm trying to think real quick. Like Nintendo had to have like their cartridges, right? Like for like NES games, right? Nintendo didn't have like their property cartridges. You had to like use their own special cartridge and whatnot. And then like also with the GameCube, gotta have their GameCube like game, right? Their own special GameCube disc, the mini disc, right? And so you have to also have like, you know, they haven't been 100% consumer friendly all the time. But I think with the loss of the face of Nintendo and with like the coming of new era of like gaming and whatnot, just the tide of directions of gaming has become anti-consumer in general, to be honest, right? And Nintendo being like following that direction is just a natural course of action. Cause now there's games from EA from everywhere that like popular games like Fortnite or stuff like that are like anti-consumer friendly because like, oh well, if you have the game you gotta pay for this, you gotta pay for that, and also pay for this and whatnot, and just you gotta add this on, download this on, and then convenience is kind of just gone unless you have enough money. So it no longer complete packages. That's just how gaming is nowadays. There's no more complete packages because it's so easy just to have it not be complete package. Because at the beginning of gaming, you had the complete package and that's it, right? Whatever it wasn't there is just the game. That if it wasn't there, it wasn't there. It wasn't the game, right? But nowadays, it's so easy just to add on and just add on more and add on more. And sooner or later, because you're adding on so much more, you just feel too comfortable in saying, okay, well, this is the game for now, and then this will be the game later in 1 year, and this is the game again 2 years, and this is the game again 3 years. And like you just keep adding more on more, and like, okay, well, this is this part of the game, this is part of the game. It's because it's so easy just to download something nowadays. Instead of you having to go to a place, buy the game, and then play the game, right? Like you have to buy a physical copy that cannot be changed, right? Because of this flexible nature, this flexible kind of how do I say this? This flexible like standard, of gaming nowadays just has an anti-consumer thing just already in it. It's just progressively. So when Nintendo gets caught up to it, it's only natural because Nintendo is a gaming company, and Nintendo will fall as Nintendo gains new employees and new direction. It will fall into this era of kind of, yeah, we're also going with the tides of gaming.
Like,
So
I
that's
don't mind that at all. Like, I know I hate, I'm not saying I like it. I fucking hate that. That's the nature of gaming now. But you can't change it. But what am angry about is like how much they're out of touch with the community and how much they're willing to shut this down so many times. Like, this isn't a one-time roundabout here. This is multiple times that they're just trying to kill off Melee for no particular reason. Like, why
yeah,
can't you
man.
just let them just play Melee? Just play a game that they enjoy, because The only alternative we got right now is just Smash Ultimate, and the online. Though the games are supposed to be, fun for everyone, right? That's supposed to be a good experience. Why is the online so shit? Why is it so awful to play? Even someone who's like probably maybe a couple blocks down, you try to play online and it's still 7 to 8 frames of delay. It's so trash, and one man made it possible to play others around the world, even in like high ping, like 183 ping. It's still playable. It's still playable. It only took one man to do this.
I thought it was more people.
There is more people, but it's mostly him though. And
Bro, I just don't understand, man. Like,
and a $1 billion company can't even do a simple thing as adding rollback.
yeah, man. Like, what Nintendo is just like every other company, man. It's just they have to do business. They protect intellectual properties of like their creators, and that's it. Like, that's the only reason Nintendo exists. Everything else of Nintendo, every other division of Nintendo, is just like, okay, so we have a legal division, and then we have a development division, and one of the others don't get a say in whatever the other one does. That's just the nature of things. I think Nintendo needs to be they need to be more lenient. They need to have more conversation with the development team. The legal side needs to understand what it means to celebrate a game, right? Or just the direction of Nintendo just needs to understand what it means that their games, what the IP means. I understand when you want to protect your IP, right? But this is just, sometimes you go too far. Because if you protect your IP so much that it hinders loving the IP or even experiencing like the IP, then you're not protecting the IP. You're just hindering it from growing under like the pretense of law, right? So it's not more of I don't think it's like a developer issue, more of it's a company issue.
Yeah, I doubt Sakurai was like, oh, there's this melee tournament going on. Let's shut this down. Yeah, I doubt, for sure it's definitely not the developers.
Yeah, and
Go on.
I think they just, I don't know, man. They just need to have they just need to be more lenient. They just need to understand like what it means, to like what it means to have and enjoy an IP. Cause Sega understands it, right? Sega understands it very well. They have Sonic Mania, right? That right there, Sonic Mania is like the ultimate understanding of what it means to have fans enjoy an IP, right? Even if their games don't do good, the fandom still thrives. You know why? It's because Sega allows them to thrive. Because Sega allows them to have Sonic be in their hands, right?
Like there are so many Sonic OCs that I can't even count, and they're like, "Oh, you're trying to draw Sonic in this unique way. Oh, let's shut that down. You can't do that. You can't draw OCs." You see so many of them, and some of them they even made a game about making OCs, Sonic Forces. Like, they understand and appreciate the community. They don't strangle and withhold their IP. They allow others to express it in their own unique way.
And that's why people still even care about Sonic, is because of that, right? Like, if Sega was stingy and took down everything like Sonic related, fan related, do you think the Sonic fandom would be as big as it is still?
It definitely wouldn't. I doubt we would even get the Sonic movie.
Like, it would still not be big. No one would remember Sonic anymore, man. We're just like, okay, he was that run rival with Mario in that 90s. That's what Sonic would have been, right? Without the fandom of Sonic keeping Sonic alive.
I cannot believe that that's a long active hitbox. Holy hell.
If without the fandom keeping Sonic alive, right, Sonic would not be alive. There's just no way. Because the games are just, like, some of them are just absolutely horrendous, right? It kind of, like, it's just like, why are you even playing? Like, with 06, with Forces, stuff like that, like, why are you even playing? Well, with the fandom keeping it alive, like, the IP alive by celebrating itself because they know it's fun about it, that's why we still even buy Sonic Forces, because we know we have a Sonic fandom. So I think, you know, once Nintendo starts making like bad mainstream IPs, I think that's when they'll start to understand what it means to kind of cherish a community. Because even if your IP starts becoming bad, right? Like the games are just trash. The fans will keep it going, and they'll still coming to buy it as long as you let them imagine, and let them celebrate it, right? For what it once was or once good, right? Nintendo is, or at least someone Nintendo, right, is too cocky and thinking, oh, we'll forever make good Nintendo games. We don't need the fans to celebrate it because Nintendo is perfectly fine itself at celebrating Nintendo. We know very much so what Nintendo is and what our IP is more than the fans do, and so we can do it. You know, that's like the mentality I think they probably have. Like only we can make Nintendo stuff. Only we can make Mario stuff. Like you cannot do it because then you would do it wrong, and then it's not good. You know. So like, I don't know. There needs to start being
Oh.
super bad. There needs to be start being super bad Mario games, super bad Zelda games, super bad Metroid games, just like for a whole year or something like that. Just for Nintendo to understand.
Oh,
Else,
Pokemon's already the start of the stepping stone.
I mean, that's been a long time coming. uh, like they had to have a recession or something, like, or we just had to have a giant like revolutionize, right? A new figurehead, a PR move, or some like president or some bigwig at Nintendo needs to come in and just basically revolutionize that company, or like Japanese copyright laws has to like revolutionize or something like that, right? Something there has to be changed, like a lot. And if Nintendo doesn't change and they start like faltering, then they'll die. The eventual death of Nintendo will happen, just not now. But if they don't do anything, right? If they don't change, they will. You know, cause look at Atari and stuff like that, right? Atari was cool, right? And whatnot back in the day because they're like the only video games company around, right? Like with the Atari 2600, 2800, and then you had little beep boops and whatnot, right? In your color screen. The games were like super basic, but like that's the only thing you had, and people still thought it was fun and whatnot. But then, you have Atari going ahead and what you say, like, they don't change, right? They stay the same. They keep going the beat boops. They don't change. They don't have like consoles like of many colors and whatnot, and they don't have like very more special power. They don't integrate like PC games or something like that. When the PCs come out during the Atari era, they don't have those type of things. And so, since Atari doesn't change, Atari doesn't survive. Atari doesn't survive the era, and then there goes Atari. There's no more Atari. They died as a video game company, right? If you don't change with times for any company or with any trends, you die. You just die. You become irrelevant, and you lose. You don't change, you die. And so if Nintendo doesn't change the next 20 years or so with the new onlines, with the new ways of how things are run, the new ways of how things should be, by number one, understanding that celebrating the IP does not have to be exclusively to Nintendo. Number two, fixing the environment of your games in which they are played. So online, basically fixing things to be more user friendly, more friend friendly, people together friendly. If they can, do that, right, then they'll be able to survive. I believe so. Because no one's gonna put up for Nintendo's bullshit for like 10 years, right? Like at some point, it's gonna get so bad, right, that no one's just gonna even try to like even celebrate Nintendo's old games. Like they'll just think about like the Atari game, because nobody's celebrating Atari Adventure anymore. Some people are, but not many.
Like,
And
no
so,
company is guaranteed success the whole way through. They
yeah,
always have to be careful.
oh, I have to be careful. On your toes, bro. On your toes. I mean, I just hope Nintendo, because Nintendo has so many good memories, right? Like,
Yeah, I really love the games that they put out. but their mixed signals is like, it's like, what's going on here, you know?
You say one thing, you mean another, man. I swear, man.
Yeah, you say one thing and then you do this action that doesn't really promote your message.
It's like I don't understand. I just don't understand, man.
Like, if you're
please
gonna do this cease and desist, at least like say a particular reason why, or at least improve on, you know, your other games. Like if you want us to play Ultimate, then at least make it viable, make it an option that, you know, someone from the US could play someone from Japan. But we can't even do that, nor can we even play someone that's a few houses away, which is embarrassing.
I like how like developer team can. How do I say this? With the vision is Steve, right? I like how the developer team can rework all the stages in Smash just for one DLC character, but they can't have a development team split up just so they can just work on the netcode of the game.
And for all those people that say, "Oh, it's too difficult, it's too expensive," there are literally indie games that have implemented GGPO. You have Skullgirls. You have Them's Fightin' Herds. I think it's also an indie game. You even have. I love what Arc Systems did. They basically took a team. I believe it's Team French Caliburst, if I'm not mistaken, that were working on rollback for Axe Core Plus R, and it's not official, by the way. They were not officially hired. It was just a team that loved Guilty Gear Axe Core Plus R and wanted to play with others around the world. And Arc Systems saw this, and they actually hired them and gave them the source code to actually make this a viable solution to the online.
Man, let's make this official.
Which was amazing.
So, I don't know, man. It's just, it's hard. It's hard times, man. Like, I just want Nintendo to have like some smarts, because like, I'm sure the developers are smart, right? They made so many good games, man. Like, the Nintendo games are so polished. So, most of them are, right? And so like, their developers must be like big brain, you know? Like, especially with the game design, like that, you have to have some guts to keep making Nintendo games like this, okay? And so I don't think like it's like they're not smart enough or like they don't have time enough or anything. It's just they just don't want to. Like somebody in the team, somebody in like the main direction team, the main director of like developer of, you know, co-director or something like that, is just saying we just don't want to do it. They probably thought about it, but they were like, we don't want to do it. I'm like, what? Why? Why don't you want to do it? Especially like with their big products. Like I understand if like, oh, it's like a Nintendo small IP, right? It's like a small IP, so they won't do it. Alright? Okay, I understand. But when it's like your big game, where you literally have almost unlimited budget, you know, then why don't you? Why don't you?
They're just like, oh, we got the sales already. Oh, we're good. We don't need to do anything else.
We don't need to improve the game. Like, why is it up to us fans to like do it, right?
To go this far.
And then when you reject us of that, you know, when you reject us for us trying to go farther where you didn't, now you say, okay, no, you can't do that. Like what? What do you mean? Like, are we supposed to be punished because you just didn't do something? You know? That makes no sense. It's like, okay, no, you can't fix my thing. It's like
yeah, go play this new game that has worse netcode.
It's like if Sega was like, all right, here's Sonic 06, and the fans are like, all right, the Sonic 06 has a bunch of bugs, but I think it's a good game still. We just need to fix the bugs. And like some guy like out somewhere uploads a patch, you know, without copyright content that fixes all the bugs of Sonic 06, and then Sega just says, all right, you can't have that, so we're gonna cease and desist your fix for Sonic 06.
Yeah, you have to play ours.
Yeah, you have to play our buggy version. I'm like, what? I just fixed your game. How are you gonna say, you know, how are you gonna say that I have to play your version and you're just gonna deny everybody that right of playing a fixed version of your game? That makes no sense. It's like, and especially if it's like not even being sold at the current time either. Like you can't get readily available. Like you have to buy it like secondhand. It's like, why even care at this point? You know, the game's already done being in development. So it's just, again, it's just Nintendo's old. Nintendo doesn't know how to celebrate object. It's just it's too full of itself, honestly.
I think they need an actual human to look at community side stuff.
Because like right now, their American PR guy is just kind of like some white dude sitting with his cup of coffee, or maybe I don't know. It's just probably like some out of touch PR dude. I don't want to say what race, because he might be any race. I don't even know. You know, people, every people of any race could be just shit. You know, you talking about. But like I mean, the Nintendo UK is kind of hitting it hard. Have you seen Nintendo UK?
God damn it.
Nintendo UK guy hits hard, and so
This video about to get canceled.
I'm just saying, man. Nintendo US dude, you need to step up you just need to step it up, bro. Girl or guy or whatever you are, bro. You need to
No,
step it
I
up.
don't think it's the person doing the Twitter. I think I need like someone not social media, like someone who needs to understand the community, like not specifically typing shit out and advertising. Just
Oh
someone,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Be like a community manager, like Nintendo.
Yeah.
Community manager. But like the last person, they just don't have it. They just don't have those types of
Yeah,
people.
it's absent. They just have
Like,
this one dude doing these tweets, like, oh, here's the next thing. Here's Mario in a sock or whatever.
and then oh, Nintendo Versus is here, and then he just tweets about that.
Yeah, and that's it.
I'm like, okay. So where's the guy who plans all this stuff? Like, where's Nintendo PR, bro? There's the only PR they have right now is just like people of no names, just no names in the company. It's like, okay, this random voice, disjointed voice, right? Just words. So at this point, there's no PRs. It's just Nintendo.
There's
Just
no one
Nintendo.
going to them like, hey guys, this is a bad idea. We should not do this.
Like, I'm pretty sure I heard that like Nintendo told them like, yeah, we can't have Slippy before they did the cease and desist, and like the big house was like, yeah, well, we can't do that because, well, then how the hell are we gonna keep this tournament safe? And so, I mean, it's up to if Nintendo had a project manager, right, or like the community manager, right? I'm pretty sure if they had one with the big house, right, they could have figured something out. You know, like, because I'm pretty sure Slippy has like this Nintendo thing, right? Or like, or maybe like they could have said, okay, if you have Slippy be like this, right, then we can allow it or something like that, or try to work with Nintendo, you know. But from what I hear, it's just like Big House like no, right? And Nintendo's like, okay, well, if you just say no to everything, like if you just say no, then we're just gonna cease and desist. They didn't try to work it out. They're just like, if you just don't comply with our one condition, we're just gonna no. You know, just they didn't even try to like compromise, right? There's none. And I'm sure they can do that, right? They're a big company, but is it right to do that? No.
Like, they're just looking at it from like a company perspective. They're not looking at it from the consumer, and that's my problem. It's just like,
There's no guy. Yeah, you have so many people who love Nintendo, and then they join Nintendo, right? But then,
like, yeah, just I don't know who said this, but imagine you're like, oh, I want to grow up and work at Nintendo, and then you're the person that has to, the asshole basically that has to shut down a tournament because of the IP issues and the usage of Slippy that they might not even know about, and they're just like, oh, it's probably modded, and they're like, oh, Dad, what did you do today? I shut down a tournament that was supposed to keep people safe. Like, that's not something you want to tell your kid, you know? You want to be like, oh, I worked at Nintendo and we made big developments on this new game with these new controls, these new it's amazing, son.
Poor
Like,
Libby Timmy. He has a dad who has who shuts down tournaments for fun. uh, it's just it sucks, man. And we want Nintendo to be about games, and we love Nintendo, and we want Nintendo to be a part of people who love Nintendo also. But part of being Nintendo and loving Nintendo and going to Nintendo and working at Nintendo, when you know you love Nintendo, should be understanding what Nintendo's about. and why things like these are important. But apparently nobody who works at Nintendo currently understands why this is important. Like, or at least no one in the legal team, or any part of the team, like that has any like influence, understands the community at all. Like, I think they understand like a little bit because they had Nintendo Versus, and they have events for like Splatoon, and they have like Nintendo NYC, and they keep the people there who watch the stuff, right? They have those stuff, so they have some people who understand, right? But then like they don't understand very fully of what it means, right? Because they just don't have as many like things they sponsor or something like that. So Nintendo is not made of Nintendo people who love Nintendo. At least whoever's making the big decisions is not a part of people who love Nintendo. I mean, do you agree with that?
I definitely agree.
So,
Because
I
they're just
mean,
doing this from like a company side perspective. They're not looking beyond the forest. Or however the quote goes.
beyond the forest, beyond the sheets, bro.
They're not reading between the lines.
I mean, it's not even between the lines at this point. It's just obvious. Anyway, other than that, I mean, Nintendo, bro. Hashtag free melee.
Hashtag free melee. If you guys make a Twitter account, just make it real quick, make it real fast. You don't have to follow any weirdos. Just put hashtag free melee. We just want to see some good ass melee being played. Some hype sets. That's all we want.
That's all we want, bro.
We just want to play the game. That's it. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for any compensation. We're not asking for, you know, some clout. We just want to play the game.
And when you do something to Smash, really, it kind of hurts all FGC. Because Smash is the most popular kind of version of fighting games, or at least the entry level of fighting games for a lot of people. So when you do something like that to Smash, you kind of hurt the entire FGC, like in kind of growing.
And funny
So-
enough, Smash was my gateway to the FGC. Like, it began with Smash 4, but I was watching tournaments, but I wasn't really into it. But Melee was where everything started for me. I was like, oh, competitive. This is people do this for a living. This is really cool. Like, I think this is awesome. Like, how pro players, they hone their skill and they just enjoy doing what they do and they make money off it. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And then seeing this, I was like, okay, cool. Is there other fighting games out there? And then, you know, I started watching Evo and just seeing all these different games. Like, oh shit, there's a whole community behind this. I was like, this is great.
Yep.
So without Smash, I literally would not even play fighting games. I wouldn't even know they existed. I'll probably still be playing God knows what. Fucking Bugsnax.
Bugsnax or PS5.
You wouldn't let me do it.
Of course not. I will not let you do that. It's too
Come
easy.
on, come on, man, come on. The donkey, ooh.
Oh, if I just there we go. I can't let you, man. That's just too easy. I can't let you.
But yeah, make that Twitter account, hashtag free melee. We just want to see the game we love being played.
We just want to see some good ass melee being played. I just want to see melee again.
Alright, everyone. Don't forget to stay safe, you know, wear your mask, you know. We gotta let this lockdown gotta end sometime, please. I'm begging you. At this point, please wear your mask.
Don't die. Love what you love. Make sure you change what you love. If you guys stay alive, make sure to do the things you need to do, eh?
Yeah, keep up your motivation. I'm sure we'll get out of this sometime. And keep playing Melee, man. Keep playing the games you love, man. Don't ever stop. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
And then if you ever become in a very good position to put rollback netcode in every fighting game, do that, please.
It is, trust me, play Killer Instinct, play Mortal Kombat, play Skullgirls, any of those games, even Guilty Gear, my favorite game, Action Core Plus R, not Rev. Rev is still delayed based. But play Action Core and you will see the difference, trust me. Trust me. I don't play SF5, don't, I gotta remember that. That is not working rollback, that is failed rollback, okay guys? You gotta remember that. That is not good rollback.
I don't understand how Capcom does it, even though SF5 probably had like unlimited budget.
I don't know either, man. Alright everyone, take care.
So yeah.